Welcome to the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. Again, it is me, Sal, Mr. Boxing Guru. Guys, welcome back. Welcome back. We have another interesting episode of the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. Today, well, we had a great weekend. We had a fight that really identifies what boxing is all about. Of course, we also had a couple other fights, but let's focus on the main fight of the weekend. The fight of the weekend was Ramirez versus Hooker. Ramirez actually goes into Hooker's, backyard and gets the win versus Hooker. Man, this was how can I even explain this? Look, every time we start talking about it, I run out of breath. Fat and not fat, but Ramirez said, you know what? I get it. I'm gonna put aside the top ranked diet. I'm gonna go and we're gonna cross the street, as Spence and friends like to call it. And I'm gonna go and fight another legit champion, and a gentleman of a champion, and a hell of a champion. A guy that was very hard to fight. A guy in Hooker that we all thought, look, man, this kid could actually beat Ramirez, because we know Ramirez. Look, Ramirez is one of those fighters that has a lot of heart. He's one of those fighters that comes to fight, that gives you an honest account of himself. Ramirez reminds me of a baby Bull Diaz, where at least before the fight, where I know I was going to get good work off him. I know I wasn't going to get anything pretty, but I know I was going to get an honest day job, and I was going to get, again, if you go to his fights, your money's worth off of a kid like Ramirez. And I think most of us did. The fight started fun, very fast. I'm not sure that was the idea, to go in and go for the kill and just look great and throw caution to the wind. But I think Ramirez went in there. He was very intelligent about the pressure he put, but it was a lot of pressure he gave him. He left himself open a lot. He got caught a lot of times. But let's take it all the way from the first round, because I thought it was very interesting. The very first round. Texas has always been pro, I don't want to say pro the hometown guy, but pro the Mexican, let's be honest. In the first round, Ramirez stepped on Hooker's foot a couple of times, and I thought it was twice before the second time where Hooker was trying to get out of the way, and he fell, and they gave Ramirez the knockdown. Now, that's when I said, "Oh shit, man! It's I would hate for the fight to end this way, or I would hate for the fight to go to the decision, and Ramirez to get a win, and letting that one point define what was was the fight." But contrary to my belief, I think Ramirez went and continued the pressure. I think I think he won arguably, in my opinion. I think I gave Hooker a round, but it wasn't one of those fights that was very easy to score. On the contrary, each one of those rounds, someone you could have gone either way, but they were nice, tough. It was a tough fight. Again, I'm not saying it was fight of the year, because if a guy is winning, if a guy is arguably winning, Hooker won one round and Ramirez won four at the time of the stoppage. A bit one-sided, but it was a fun fight to watch. And credit to Hooker, man. He got caught. He fucked up. He started playing with his jab, and he played into Ramirez's hands, because I think we all thought that Ramirez was going to go in there, just try to be the bully and get in there and get grimy with Hooker. But the fact of the matter is, when things opened up is when Ramirez went back on his toes and started creating openings, sort of like an amateur. And again, that worked out great, because that's when Hooker kind of let his guard down. He started playing with Ramirez. He fell for that feintish, I guess, style that Ramirez was pulling, and they were going to go back to their amateur's way. And then that's when he unfortunately got caught. And kudos to Ramirez, man, because look, man, the guy smelled blood. He went in and he went for the kill, and instead of waiting on the opponent, and especially with all the talk that's actually going on right now with unfortunately fighters losing their life because of accident in the ring. He went in and as brutal as it may sound, he went for the kill, and the ref did what was best for Hooker at that time and stopped the fight. There was no need for any additional punch. There was maybe like one or two additional ones that I would have been like, okay, maybe it would have been okay to back off, but nonetheless, it was a perfect fight by Ramirez. And I think the sky's the limit for this kid so far. At least you're gonna get an honest day of work anytime you see Ramirez fight. Now that 140-pound division is something to really salivate, because it doesn't have like this one mega star, but it has all these guys that are legitimate fighters. Again, you got Hooker that you could easily match him versus anybody else that's out there. Look, you could put Hooker versus the loser of Taylor versus Rigoro. I think again, Progrise, whatever you want to call him. I think that's a great matchup. I think the fight to make is again, whoever loses between Rigoro or Progrise and Taylor versus Ramirez. I think it becomes a legitimate fight. In that fight, at that point, I think the only thing to do would be to go to 147. There's also younger guys that are out here that are at 140. 140, in my opinion, is the best division in boxing. I guess you could say, well, no, you can't say it. I would say, fuck, it's fucking better than the heavyweight division. The heavyweight division has all these big names now, but fuck it, they won't even fight each other. Not even when they have a contract to fight each other, they're somehow willing to fuck it up. But again, my kudos to that fight. Main event kicked ass, unlike the Tevin Farmer fight. Tevin Farmer versus Francois. Tevin Farmer beats Francois. I think that's how you say it, by decision. This fight, I got bad flashback, guys. I mean, this was just bad boxing. I get it, the pure science, the sweet science, but I don't see any fucking scholars going out there and saying, "Oh yes, we would love a jab fest," or I don't know. I don't see people lining up to see fighters. I mean, this reminded me like of Andy Ruiz fight. I'm sorry, Andy Vance's fight. I'm sorry. It reminded me of a Richard Abreu fight. It reminded me of Prime Hopkins. Shit. I mean, I thought it was like reincarnation of Ishe Smith. This is just bad. I mean, I'm so happy that a guy like Ramirez and both Ramirez, and I'm giving Ramirez a little too much credit here. Both Ramirez and Hooker gave us, in my opinion, a great main event. I think, again, I'm not saying it was a fight of the year or whatnot, but it was a great event. It made you say, huh, kind of glad I paid these $10 for DAZN, man. This is really what it's all about. Legitimate, pure fights. Again, I know Eddie Hearn can't catch a break. All his fighters are losing, but it doesn't matter, man. That doesn't matter. And I like that about Eddie Hearn, because he does stuff in a very golden boyish ways, with the exception that, at least his guys get to the championship level. But once they're champions, once they're at the top of the sport, his fighters don't have a choice but to fight these tough fights. And I think that's what happened with Hooker. That's what you're going to see as other guy, what is it, Campbell, to get thrown into a Woes versus Loma. I mean, these guys are champions, so let's do what champions do and fight the best. Again, kudos to Eddie Hearn for putting his kids in tough. This is what boxing is all about. It sucks that it took all this fucking money to make decent fights, but that's what it took. But again, enough of this fight. It was a great fight. I loved it. It's one of those fights that I've watched a couple of times. Again, and DAZN, and shout out to DAZN, man. They're really kicking ass. I think they had some of the best fights so far this year. And they had the Andy Ruiz versus Joshua. They had now the Ramirez fight versus Hooker. And again, but the Tevin Farmer fight, man, that just, I mean, I hate to just dwell on bad shit, but that's horrible. That's just, I don't know, it's just horrible matchmaking or do you need two guys to make a decent fight? Do you have to throw him in there with a pressure fighter? Do I want to see him versus Cancio? No, because I think Cancio deserves better. Look, Cancio's not a spring chicken anymore. He's been through some wars. He's had a couple of losses. I want to see Cancio versus a guy that's gonna fight, that's willing to make a beautiful fight together. Tevin Farmer is gonna play keep away for a whole fight and then complain because the fans are booing him. Look, at the end of the day, it's those fans that are there watching your fight that matter. Those fights that actually pay for the DAZN subscription. Because I'm a degenerate bastard, I watched the Tevin Farmer fight, but in good conscience, I wouldn't recommend anybody else watching this fight. I think it's bad for boxing. I think if you invite a casual friend and say, okay, let's watch this fight, and you see a little cockeyed kid running around the ring, for 12 rounds and expecting to get all the money fights, no. But unfortunately, I think he's going to be the fighter that and I think Eddie Hearns is okay with this, using Tevin Farmer because he's obviously not going to make a buck off of him. Tevin Farmer's not the type of guy that's going to move the needle on people going into DAZN or not. But it's time to say, you know what, fight Jojo Diaz, and hopefully Jojo Diaz comes out with the victory and is able to pull it off, and we could move on. Because let's be honest, Tevin Farmer's keeping that belt hostage, fighting these undeserving title contenders or whatever you call them in boxing now. But again, it's time to get rid of fighters like Tevin Farmer. As a matter of fact, speaking of fighters that are in Tevin Farmer's division, let's talk about what happened in Baltimore. Tank Davis beat another overly matched opponent, and I think he beat him in the second round. Look, man, Tank Davis deserves better. I think Tank is that fighter. He's that hood fighter that you want to cheer for. I would have loved for a guy like Eddie Hearn to get a guy like Tank Davis. I would love for a guy like Tank Davis to get the type of to be as busy as a guy like Tevin Farmer. That's the guy I want to see on my TV. Even if you're getting him this lesser opposition every once in a while and then finding a good name, that's the guy I would rather watch instead of a Tevin Farmer. Tank Davis, I don't think that Floyd and Leonard Nosroby deserve the credit for building a fighter like that. I think Tank Davis is just a dog. He's the promoter's dream. And he's just the type of fighter that is he's so good, he's so solid, he comes at such a strong amateur pedigree, and not only that, but he has such a dog in him that he's just, again, fun to watch overall. I really hope we get to see a lot more Tank. I hope we get to see him versus a guy like Loma, but more than anything, I hope we get to see him with like-minded fighters like, again, Tevin Farmer to a certain extent. Joseph Diaz, Cancio, those type of fighters that'll bring out the best in each other. Let's see. So that was it for the weekend. Let's talk about what we have this week on August 3rd from Belfast. I'm sorry. On ESPN Plus, we got Michael Conlan versus Diego Ruiz. Not much info on Diego Ruiz. I saw a couple of stuff a little earlier in the day. Look, man, all I want from Conlan is a good fight. I think Conlan is a hell of a fighter, and I think he needs to be matched. I'm not saying he's a bad fighter because I don't think he is, but he was gaining momentum fighting in LA and then learning how to plant his feet a little more. I think that went away when he left Manny Robles. But I think, honestly, he needs to do something because that style isn't getting him anywhere. Yes, it's getting him wins, but I need to see progression. He's one of those guys that you want to see do good. He's a very good kid, and I want to see him progress. I don't see him progressing anymore. I see him winning a 10-round amateur fight. That's not what I want from him. I really want to see, again, I really want to make sure we see him do good. As far as the other fight, actually, somewhere on let's see, somewhere on, actually got distracted because I'm actually go live on my phone right now. Somewhere in the PBC world, we got Chris the Nightmare Arreola. He will be fighting Adam, what is it? Kownacki. So he's actually fighting Kanaki, whatever his name is. Look, this is a dog fight. We all know Chris Arreola is a dog. Unfortunately, he's a dog with no legs. I don't think he has many legs left in him. Kownacki is, in my opinion, a hell of a fighter. A strong, chubby, fat kid, but a strong, chubby, fat kid that could crack. Again, nothing against Arreola. I think Arreola had better days. I think he's an Arreola that's stayed fairly in shape and obviously wants to make moves. Because I understand he's still working with Henry Ramirez. Oh shit! As a matter of fact, Henry Ramirez just popped into my life. But he obviously wants to continue the last half of his career. I don't think he has enough legs with him on him to keep a guy like what used to be his. I mean, he's a spitting image of young Chris Arreola. So strong amateur pedigree. So I don't think Chris is gonna have enough. I wish all the best of luck. Chris is one of my favorite fighters personally because he was that one fat guy that made it. So as a boxer at least. So he started the whole Andy Ruiz wave. So kudos to him. Berto, I think, pulled out of the fight. Something about a rib bicep, or maybe he was cycling off his roids. I don't know. The whole card is a classic PBC card, like we all know. It's a classic PBC card. I mean, I'm sure the card will go on to like 3 a.m, and somehow Henry's going to be there with his LA hat, ready to party afterwards. I went live, but I think it's a little too late. I think everybody's still asleep. Like I said, I think Henry's still up. He's out there. Israel Luna. Henry tells me to stop hating. I think this is it. This has been the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. Thank you so much, and see you guys next week. Hasta luego.